Hello and welcome to this open discussion of the Second World War, World War II. Red, blue, old style. All right. I got some King Cobra. Yeah. Blah, blah, blah. Did a taste challenge a little while ago with Magnum. King Cobra did fine, but it didn't win. It lost. Now, would it have lost to the 6% Magnum? So long ago when I had it, I can't really say. I mean, it seems like maybe Magnum was better. I'm saying maybe Magnum is better now than when it was years ago. But I could never go. I could never really trust that. It's been too many years. Okay, so World War II, we were talking about it about a month and a half, 2 months ago, and we were saying, I was saying a better name for World War II would be, or the Second World War. A better name for that would be like the World War Part 2. You know what I mean? Instead of calling it World War II, call it the World War Part 2. Right? Now, when I say this is an open discussion, I mean, you can say what you want. And if you think I'm wrong or whatever, you can join the chat and rebut what I'm saying, rebuke me or whatever, within reason. So, in fact, I don't think any of them would have any interest whatsoever, but I'll post this in the beer group. Just, because I don't want them to feel left out. I'm going to put World War II discussion. And we'll see who wants to join. Probably be absolutely nobody. But the better name for it, I've determined, should be the World War Part 2. The World War Part 2. And now we're talking, okay. World War II discussion. So they can join if they want to, Yeah, they got it. So here we are coming up on the 75th anniversary of the Normandy landings, Normandy, France. And people say, this opened up a second front in the war. Well, it didn't open up a second front. It opened up a third land front. Battlefront, a third battlefront on land. There was already the war at sea. That's a front. There's the air war. That's a front in the air. So you got land, sea, air. Okay. Show you what I'm talking about. Well, that map's showing after the landing, so that's not a very good map. Let's say May 1944. Yeah, that'd be a good map. Okay, here we go. See if we have any comments from anybody. No. Okay. So we're about to get to the 70th anniversary. Let's see. Screen share. Okay, so hey, Ron, what are you going to talk about the war today? So can you see this map? Can people see this map? All right. Yes. Here we have the Western Wall. This was the German fortification system they built along the Atlantic coast west on the west end of Europe to protect their occupied areas from invasion. As we find out, it didn't really work very well. We're about to hit the 75th anniversary of the Normandy landings. Okay. Here's Normandy, France, where I'm pointing right there. See? All right, with this little pointer. But you see, there was already two land fronts. There was the eastern front running from the Arctic Ocean down east of Finland, southeast of Finland, east of the Baltic states into Belarus, White Russia, into Poland or the Polish border, and down into Bessarabia, the area that the Soviet Union had seized from Romania. Red is Allied areas: Soviet Union, Great Britain, and North Ireland, United Kingdom of Great Britain, Northern Ireland, Iceland, which was Allied occupied. The Allies invaded Iceland, by the way. Iceland protested, but of course, they had no way to resist. It's a whole country with people with less population in New Orleans. The Allies had invaded French Africa. You see me pointing right there: Morocco, Algeria, and Tunisia, expelling Germany and Italy from Africa. Then they jumped across the sea to Italy, invaded Italy in Sicily, Italian Sicily, went into the boot of Italy, and that's when Italy surrendered after secretly negotiating with the Allies, which the Germans suspected they were doing. Mussolini was not. He was not going to negotiate with the Allies, but the government went behind Mussolini's back. Whoops. Let me hit the right thing here. Doing screen share and I'm hitting the wrong thing. So that's why you see that weird kind of thing. All right, so that was in 43. Invading Sicily, Italy surrendered. As soon as Italy surrendered, well, what happened first was Mussolini was removed from office. Oh, the white areas are neutral countries: Turkey, Spain, Portugal. Spain and Portugal were favorable towards Germany, but they didn't have much confidence that Germany was going to win the war, so they declined to join the effort. Italy, very foolishly in 1940, thought Germany was going to win. They jumped the gun and joined the war on Germany's side. But then by the end of 1940, 6 months later, they realized that, yeah, we screwed up. All right, but that's too bad for them. So Mussolini was removed from office by the king, Victor Emmanuel III of the House of Savoy, the country that had taken over Italy in 1859-60, the Kingdom of Sardinia, and they renamed it Italy. Mussolini was placed under arrest because the king did not trust him to try to rise up against him. And then the king began to negotiate and then surrendered to the Allies, at which point Germany began immediately to attack Italy, all across Italy. Germany had sent troops into Italy to help them resist the Allies. But when they realized that Italy was going to surrender, they began to attack Italian troops all across Italy and in Greece and Albania. And then Italy declared war on Germany. So they switched sides. You can see that all of France is occupied. French Reich, that means French kingdom, French country. Monaco, well, that's not important. Social Republic of Italy, the Italian Social Republic. Mussolini was rescued by the Germans, you might remember, and placed in control of northern Italy, well, under German guidance. But he was washed up. That was just largely ceremonial position. Finland was still allied with Germany, but trying to negotiate with the Soviet Union to get out of the war by this time, because it was obvious Germany was going to lose. The only reason Finland had joined the war on Germany's side was to get their land back from this land here that I'm pointing at, that had been taken from Finland by the Soviet Union in 1939, 1940. And the Soviet Union attacked Finland. Finland had no interest in National Socialism, so-called Nazism, any of that stuff. They just wanted their land back. But they found out rather quickly that that war wasn't going to work out for them. Finland was not treated harshly after the war because they weren't in the war for the same reasons. Norway was occupied by Germany. Sweden was neutral. They favored Germany generally, but didn't get involved, aside from cooperating with Germany on a friendly basis. But by this time, 1944, Sweden could see where things were going, and so they started to turn a cold shoulder toward Germany. Same with Spain, Portugal, and Ireland, kind of holding Germany off at a distance, saying, oh, well, yeah, good luck, but good riddance. Ireland was pro-German generally because they hated the British, but Ireland was still, in some respects, under the control of Great Britain. The King of England was still the King of Ireland. And so they were trying to totally disassociate themselves from Great Britain, which they finally did in 1949. So they were given self-government in 1922. But it took another 27 years to totally break away from Great Britain. So they were like, woo, it's hard to get rid of these people, Northern Ireland, as you can see, was still a British territory and is still a British territory to this very day in 2019. All right, but we can see the three land fronts. Now, most people will say they wanted to open a second front by landing Allied troops from England over here to Normandy. Not a second front, a third. Eastern Front 1, Italian Front, the second land front of the war. So 1941 here, 1943 here. These islands were recaptured by the Allies fairly easily. Corsica and Sardinia. Sicily took about a month, but it wasn't particularly hard. So then you got the big Deutsches Reich, the German country empire. Germany itself, Austria, the Eastern Reich, Poland, the territories they seized back from Poland that they had lost in 1918, and from Latvia, from Belarus. Then you have Ostland, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, which they said they're coming to save them from the Russians. Then they turn into a German territory. So the people in Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania say, oh, well, we just traded one bad ruler for another. The government general, the interior of Poland, where the Polish people live, turn into a German territory, occupied to. Ungarn, that's Hungary. They're trying to get all their land back from 1918. Romania going back to their earlier borders. Bulgarian, trying to recreate the Bulgarian Empire. Serbia, German occupied. Croatia, a German ally. Montenegro, occupied. Albania, Italian territory. Greece, occupied by Italy. Bohemia and Moravia, that's the Czech Republic today, minus the German territories that had been stripped away from them in 1938. A German protectorate. Remember, the Czechia, Bohemia had been occupied. It had been part of the German Confederation until 1866, and it was occupied or part of the Austrian Empire until 1918. I have a lot of Czech viewers that get angry with me. they'll say Czechia was never part of Germany. And I was like, yes, it was. They say, well, they stole our land. I said, well, whether they stole it or not, okay, the right or wrong of it, I'm not talking about the merits or demerits of the situation, but the situation was, in fact, that it was part of Germany, the German Confederation, until 1866, and Austria until 1918. Now, you can get angry, but it's the facts. We got to talk about facts here, not opinions. Okay, Alex. Oh, how did the brown shirts in Germany rival the official military and police? Says Roscoe. Well, they didn't rival them for very long because remember the SA, the brown shirts, the SA, the stormtroopers, the storm battalions. That's what SA stands for, storm battalions, the storm battalions. Was a party, what you call it, security force, a security force of the NSDAP, the Nationalsozialistische Deutschlander Arbeiter Party, the German National Socialist Party, so-called Nazis, but the name of the party was the National Socialist Party. They had a security apparatus called the Storm Battalions. They would battle out their rivals in the streets, mainly the communist cadres. Well, they tended to be kind of like, you know, lower middle class, sort of lower class, and even, and kind of ruffians, maybe troublemakers a little bit, but they were necessary for the party to gain power because they didn't mind fighting. You know, they loved a good street battle. You know what I mean? But they tend to be very radical, sort of quasi-communistic. Their leaders. So after Hitler got into power in 1933, when he was appointed the chancellor, we would call it prime minister of Germany, these brown shirts were sort of out of control. And there was a lot of complaining from people that had helped Hitler get into power, conservative groups, Catholic groups, more well-heeled people, including the president of Germany, who was not pleased. Even Hitler supporters were saying, what's up with these guys? You know, they're kind of crazy. They're kind of scary, and we don't really like them, you know. Kind of uneducated mob sort of type, drinking a lot, beer, guzzling, kind of. And they talk crazy, you know, communist talk. Like, I thought we were fighting the communists. So Hitler got a little nervous, you know, about that. And they really weren't even following his directions. You know, he's supposed to be this big dictator, and they're pretty unruly. You know, they're not even listening to him, even starting to complain about him. So there was a suspicion that the brown shirts, the SA under Ernst Röhm, the notorious Ernst Röhm, were possibly plotting an uprising against Hitler, actually, to make the National Socialist Party more radical, more truly, you know, red socialist radical. So, you know, there was a big effort to overthrow them, and they made a strike against them. Hitler and the police and the army and the SS, Hitler's personal bodyguard, the security service, Schutzstaffel, security staff, they plotted against the SA, and they made an attack on them in 1934 and pretty much wiped them out. The SA continued to exist until 1945, but only as a crippled version of its former self. So then the president of Germany told Hitler, good, that's good. You made a good move because these people were bad. You know, they were out of control and they were embarrassing the country. So the answer is, how did the brown shirts rival the military police? The military and the police, well, they didn't rival them. They were wiped out. And they didn't challenge them. Now, Hitler took him another 5 years to bring the army completely under his control, or largely under his control. He never had full control of the army. So, okay. Hey, Ronnie, you going to do Hangouts on this video or no? Yes, I already posted the link, Alex. Anybody can join. I already said that. The link is there. Just click it. Okay, so the point of the Normandy landing, it was not a second battlefront on land, it was the third battlefront, okay? When you watch these television shows and whatever, it makes it seem as though Germany was so powerful in 1944, June 6, 1944. And how could we land troops there? It's such a risk. The powerful Germany, we may never survive. But the truth of the matter really is that the vast majority of the German troops were fighting on the Eastern Front, the best troops, to try to stave off the Russian invasion, which was unrelenting. They already had a lot of troops down in Italy trying to stop the Allies from coming up the peninsula of Italy towards Central Europe. The German air forces were largely rendered neutral by this time, neutralized. They couldn't do much, couldn't defend the country anymore by 1944. The Allies were beginning to bomb Germany at will. At will. The German war at sea was crashing into a complete failure. So by 1944, the war at sea was over. Essentially, the Allies had total control of the seas. SK Reviewer says, very interesting. I agree. Not that I'm interesting, that the war is interesting. So by 1944, we're talking about May. Here we are in May, 75 years later. There are a few veterans still alive. If they were 18, now they're at 93. I can remember when they had veterans that were in their 40s. True story. I can remember when they had World War II veterans that were still in their 40s. But by 75 years ago this month, Germany was not down for the count, but in bad trouble. Think of a boxing match. They were pretty obviously not going to win the match. The best they could hope for was a draw, and that was highly unlikely. The obvious result was going to be a knockout. In the later rounds, 13th, 14th, or 15th rounds, at the earliest, the 12th round, but they were going down. So you see it often portrayed on television and in movies as like that this was the last hope for the Allies. If they could somehow land the troops on the beach, they could survive the war and win. No, this is not true. Germany was already on the ropes. This is a country that had been beaten for round after round, had very little left in reserve strength, and was holding on. Okay? Could clearly not win. Was being invaded through Italy, the entire Eastern Front, stretching from Bulgaria all the way to Finland in the Arctic Ocean. Had no chance of victory whatsoever. Had a minuscule chance to survive the war with just having it called off, but a very poor chance of that. So D-Day, more than anything, was just one of the final knockout blows. Not this thing like it's portrayed in movies like Saving Private Ryan, for instance, of this life or death struggle to survive and to beat Germany. Look, let's just say for the sake of argument, they wouldn't have succeeded in the beach landing, which we're talking about a 9-to-1 chance. 90% chance it's going to succeed and a 10% chance it'll fail. This is how the odds were stacked. And it's probably worse than that. We're talking about overwhelming air superiority, overwhelming naval superiority, and an overwhelming numerical superiority on land with the landing troops. Canadian, British, which operated as a single unit, British Commonwealth, by the way, which continued into the 80s, if not even today. And American forces at 5 beaches: Omaha, Utah for the USA, Gold, Juno, and Sword for the British Commonwealth, Canada, Dominion of Canada, and Kingdom of Great Britain, Northern Ireland. Okay. By the end of the day, we're talking about in one day, by the end of the day, it was pretty much a done deal. It's pretty obvious. There's a well-established third front, in northwestern Europe, and it's over. It's not over officially, but essentially it's over. It's over. So, although Germany did have a few tricks left up her sleeve, we know this, because Germany had reserve strength. This was not a country that was going to go down easy. This is not like the invasion of Iraq in 2003, where you got a seasoned pit bull that has been in many pit fights against a puppy. You know, a ridiculous war like that, or against Afghanistan with 0% chance of success, or you know what I'm talking about, or the Vietnam War, where it's a convoluted situation, not even in some respects a real war, but that's another story. In Korea, another good example. No. Now you might say, well, Korea, China jumped in. Not talking about China. Even China today in 2019 is in no way comparable to Germany in 1944, okay, relative to 1944 to 2019. You have to understand this. Germany in 1944 was extremely advanced technologically. They had exquisite weaponry, air, land, and sea. They had probably or arguably the most well-trained troops on the planet. They had a command structure that was fairly solid top to bottom. Of course, we know they had a rebellious group within the command structure, as evidenced by the bomb attack in July 1944. But we're talking about one of the most advanced countries on the planet in history, and one of the most capable military organizations in the history of the world. So we're not talking about a country that's going to go down easy. I mean, this is going to be a major problem. China today is very powerful, but still in all, they are not to that level relative to the other opponents at the time period in question. Now, well, okay, so here's some comments. But still in all, by June 1944, May 1944, the jig is up. It's over. It's not a matter of if Germany's going to lose. It's simply a matter of when. And this had been the case for a year, 10 months at least, since Battle of Kirk's. After August 1943, there was no question Germany had lost the war. So it was no question of if, it was only a question of when. Okay, let's see. Wiltshire Beer Reviews Good Ale says, do you know what happened at Dunkirk? Yes, I do certainly know what happened at Dunkirk in May and June of 1940. Oh yes, very familiar with that. Sofa says, do you think the Normandy landings were due to an Allied need to try and reach Germany, or at least occupy France and Western Europe before the Soviets eventually overran Germany and most likely kept going? No, not really. Actually, hold on, I got to get something more to drink. I'm so thirsty. I'm going to get some water, though, not beer. I'm going to wait. Hold on. No, remember the Allies had told Stalin, well, we have a second front, it's Italy. And Churchill, more than anyone, was saying we need to put all our emphasis on Italy. We can come right up the gut into the interior of Europe. He was more concerned about outflanking the Soviet Union than the Americans, who seemed indifferent to it, although we know now it's largely because of Franklin Roosevelt's sort of bumbling approach to the war, and not to mention his heavily infiltrated command structure. Infiltrated by Soviet assets, pro-Soviet, well, spies, agents, whatever you want to call them. They work for the U.S. government, which led to the McCarthy era and all that. But you had this kind of conflict between the Americans and the British Commonwealth, because the British were saying, let's go up the soft underbelly, you know, we could just, and then you had the Soviet Union, Stalin saying, no, no, you need to attack in France. More than likely, Danny, it's because he knew that if the Allies put all their strength in the underbelly through Italy and the Balkans, Serbia, Estonia, Latvia, Serbia, Croatia, Bosnia, Herzegovina, Slovenia, Austria, that they could get to Berlin way sooner than the Soviets. So in a way, you could say that Normandy was almost like a diversion from a more successful effort. There was no way Germany could stop the Allies in Italy. They hadn't done it. They weren't going to do it. They certainly couldn't stop them in the Balkans. If the Allies had invaded Yugoslavia, the Germans had no hope of stopping them there, because they were already in a deep-seated war against partisans, Mihailovic and his royalist Serbians, and Tito with the pro-Soviet communist Serbians. That was tying down 60,000 German troops or more in an unwinnable situation. So if anything, Normandy was a diversion from what the Allies could have really accomplished by going just concentrating on the second front, which was Italy. So no, I don't think so. Alex says, hey, Ron, I thought that you were going to put the link out for us to go on Hangouts with you on the video. I got confused. I did put the link. I put the link on Beer Talk, the International Beer Review Guild. It's there. I put the link. It's there. It's been there for 25 minutes. The International Beer Review Guild. The link is there. Anyone can join. Okay, so there we go. We have it 75 years ago. What was the state of the war 75 years ago? I mean, this was 24 years before I was born. Well, I think I made that very clear. The state of the war was simply this. You had a country, Germany, very powerful, but in many ways, and we can go back to 1939, many ways inferior to any kind of acceptable or reasonable expectation of success. So you have to question their whole thinking. I've said this about Germans, and you can say that's a stereotype. That's a stereotype. Oh, well, you know, all stereotypes are true for the average person. What did I say years ago? I said the German people are very good at making intricate gadgets. You know, like dials and gauges and valves and meters and sensors, gadgets, you know, intricate devices. Wonderful, the best. Make good beer too. But on the other hand, they have a tendency to, they tend to have an inability to grasp the big picture. They can look at a dial and make the most complicated dial you ever wanted to see. And if it breaks, it only takes 2 years to fix and 3 times what it's worth. But to look at the big picture, can't seem to do it. You look at the German government in 1939, it seemed totally, almost aloof to reality. You have to say, what are they thinking? Like, what dream world do they live in? You know, the Germans live in a dream world. You say, oh, well, they get very excited. They listen to Wagner, and they think about Brunhilde and the Valkyries, and they're very romantic, and they get very angry, and they have a lot of, their blood gets up, and oh, you don't want to mess with them. They get very furious. They'll go into a berserker fury. Oh, the might of the German rage. Well, that's all good, you know. Go listen to Rammstein or whatever. On the other hand, be that as it may, They do seem to lack an ability to grasp a global worldview of how the situation exists at the time of the situation at hand. Whereas you got the British Empire, and people say, oh, the British, they act like women. They cross their legs. They wear short pants. They say, jolly good. Oh, yeah. And they have umbrellas. And like Archie Bunker said, they were a country. I can't say it because I'll get banned. They're contemptible. You know, they have strange holidays and they drive lorries and they just sickening them with all their rainy weather. Okay, whatever. And they make terrible pop music. Oh, well. But yet, on the other hand, they have a masterful grasp of world reality. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Like the Germans are saying, oh, you know, you made us angry. We must grab Danzig. We will invade Danzig. And we don't care if we have to attack and destroy Poland. We're going to get Danzig back. The British are saying, oh, well, oh, boy. Oh, don't you know we've lined up the whole world against you, you see, and we've got it all financed through the banks. It's all been negotiated. You know, they've already had the finance negotiated through the House of Rothschild, and it's got the United States well prepared to jump in. They've got all their ducks lined up. Got Roosevelt online, and the Germans say we have fury, we have rage. Well, the British say bugger rage. You know, we plan things out. You Huns, you know, you Germanic morons, you know, and so that. And I think that's the fault of the Germans. They fall into that mindset of the British. You know, they think that too. The British, they wear shorts and they cross their legs, and the women are ugly and the men are handsome, and they have bad dental policies, and they drink sherry from Spain, and they're contemptible, and they have horrible hotels. But nonetheless, they have well, the world's best grasp of the situation at hand now. And I don't rip on the British. I don't criticize the British. I study what they do. I know their game plan. I'm not angry or anything. I just say the Germans shouldn't step into every trap that's set in front of them. That's all I was ranting about. Just because somebody sets a trap 20 straight times doesn't mean you have to step into it 20 straight times. And then in 1939, you step into it the 21st time, September 1st. So, you know, there's a lot to be said about that. Do I like the German people? Certainly. Don't necessarily like everything about it, but the German food is very good. Beer is better. All right, so that's the situation in 1944. The jig was up. Germany was not down for the count, but you know, it's over. It's all about. You can imagine what the Germans were thinking. How am I going to survive this? You know, this is it. It's, you know, the average German person's thinking, this is pretty much over with. Okay, good afternoon, Ron. Happy to tune in, says Michael Smith. Now, you can imagine the British were very jolly, you know, upbeat by May 1944. They thought, oh, we've done it again. You know, we've taken down another challenger. You say, what do you mean a challenger? You know, we run the world. That's the British attitude. We've been running this show since 1688. You know, we run the world, and we're going to continue to run it. And if you screw with us, you're going to be like Germany, getting it. Now, so I'm sure the British were feeling pretty good. 1944, the Americans were, because they're the junior partner, and when the government's telling you, oh, yay, hurrah, hurrah, and zippity-doo-dah, and who, you know, hoorah and all that, and you Kate Smith singing God Bless America, you know, and you fall for it and you don't realize, you say, I'm so glad we stood up against those British in 70. I love to look at Facebook because people say, it's all about guns, man. I got my guns. That's how we stopped the British in 1755. We had guns. It's like, you're so dumb, because we are still a colony, you idiot. I mean, not technically, but in reality, we follow the British plan. I mean, you know, a child can see this if they study. You say, oh no, we got the Monroe Doctrine. Well, actually, the British invented that. You say, we got the open door policy in China. Well, actually, the British invented that. So, but, you know, we got hot dogs and Chevrolet and apple pie and ZZ Top. So, hey, you know, why nitpick? Zach Robinson says, great discussion, Ron. I'm glad I got home in time to see it live. Oh, thank you, Zach. And Zach Robinson said, the British Empire was not much left a few years after the end of World War II. Well, yeah, you can get confused looking at a map. I think what you got to understand is that Great Britain and France, United States to an extent, not Portugal, they were not as aware of how things worked. They sat down and said, you know, all these empires look nice on a map. You say, look at the French Empire, French West Africa, Madagascar, French Polynesia. Beaucoup, monsieur, la France impériale. And then, but then you say, yeah, but you know, it costs $10 to make a dollar. Oh. We have the French Empire. Every dollar we make, it costs $10 to make it. Well, that's no kind of benefit. Then the British say, oh, dear. Don't you know it costs 10 pounds sterling to make a pound? You see, so they realize for every dollar they made off the empire, it cost them $10 to make it. Well, hell, that's no kind of benefit. So they got together, you know, they have their meetings, and they say, oh, you know, like in The Godfather, they have their meetings, you know, like the scene at the hotel, remember? They have the meeting. So they say, well, okay, how about this? Let's get rid of the colonies, which cost $10 to make a dollar. I mean, you're losing a lot of money to have a pretty map. And let's do this. Let's make them all independent. We can have the United Nations organization, which of course will control, the United States will control it, but it'll look good. Then we'll give all the colonies independence. Of course, we'll still run them through back channels, as you notice from French troops conducting an operation in Benin just last week, formerly French. Oh, what was Benin called? I'll get it as soon as the video's over. Wasn't called Benin, it was called well, whatever, a French territory. Became independent. Independent 1960. You say, independent, why are there French troops crawling all over West Africa still today? And every time a leader gets out of hand, these French tanks come down the street and jet planes, you know, dive bomb the palace, and then the guy winds up dead. Well, because, you know, now you can still make the money, but think about it now. You don't have to pay for the stuff. You got a president of Benin, the president of Mauritius, the president of Mauritania, the president of the Central African Republic or Empire, depending on who's running it, the president of Madagascar, the president of Guinea, and what, you know, so on and so on. And then you got the French advisors, the French ambassador. They're there. the French minister, we are there, monsieur, to give help. We want to help the country develop. And then you have Botswana land, but you got Botswana and Zimbabwe. Well, they got kicked out because they didn't want to cooperate. And Zambia and Gambia. Okay. And then you've got a British High Commissioner say, Mr. President, well, of course, Her Majesty's government is here to advise and help the country to develop. We want the best for you. And we have a bank and development organizations help you develop most certainly and most well. You see, so we call it neo-colonialism. Neo-colonialism. All right, Michael Smith says Africa is unstable, of course, and unpredictable, of course. It's such a powerhouse. It needs stability from our allies. Oh, well, I think the Western powers, France, Great Britain, Portugal, United States, have pretty much given up on stability. They say, well, can't stabilize that. We can make money off of it. And I think they're making a pretty good amount of money off of Africa, despite the drawbacks. But just that's a fascinating story. But yeah, neo-colonialism, the new colonialism, neo-colonialism, neo-imperialism. This goes back to World War II. See, so this fits the video. This has seemed to me to be a much more financially profitable and successful endeavor than straight up official colonialism. Well, why have official colonialism? It doesn't look good. People say bad things about it. All of this and that. So we make it look more presentable. The French say, Monsieur, we are here to help you, your country develop with all the infrastructure. Magnificent. The wonderful attributes à la française. See, so then you have all the wonderful things. And then the people down in Gabon can drink the Perrier and the Kronenbourg and the Hennessy Negra, the Hennessy Privilege. SC. Okay. Oh, I thought I had turned it off. You little rascal. I said stop sharing, you trash. All right. Thanks for watching this video production. I thought I stopped sharing it. Crap.